Hello, everyone. So, I'm doing something a little bit different today, as you can already see. I decided to do a little recording of my husband working with his wood lathe this week. And I have this sped up a little bit, obviously, so that it's not going, super slow and dragging on and on. You don't want to have that. Um, he, I show this through the whole process. Unfortunately, I didn't catch it at the very beginning before he clicked it on so you could see the actual block of wood. He has 3 different woods in this piece that he glued together previously the night before, and so it starts off square, and as soon as it starts to spin, you can't tell it's square anymore. But he is going to create a bowl out of this block of wood, and he had done one the night before, and it came out beautiful. I'll show you a picture at the end. Um, so he decided to make another one, and this one comes out absolutely beautiful too. It is an incredibly messy process, as you can tell by his arms. I mean, he is just completely covered in sawdust. He periodically will take his little air hose and blow some of it off because it just starts to get so heavy on him. But he, it's almost kind of satisfying when you start vacuuming it up and you've got these big clumps of sawdust that just start to suck up into that vacuum. It's like reminds me of those videos you'll see on TikTok and stuff that just say satisfying. But anyway, so he's the one who has been, I talk about him now and then, making me wonderful, beautiful drop spindles. He helped me restore that spinning wheel, which is why he actually started to learn to wood turn in the first place, was so he could do that with me. And he has actually only been doing this now for, let's see, about 7 months. Um, he's been getting a little extra time to work on it during the winter because we had such a long, wet winter, and I kept him occupied and busy when he couldn't actually be outside working because he cannot work when it's raining out. But he's only been doing this for about 7 months, and he has been doing some absolutely beautiful things. So he is now switching so he can start working the inside of this, which I always find really fun to watch as that inside just starts to melt away. So I have this book that I picked up a while back called Handicrafts of New England, and it is a first edition, and the book was written in, I think, 1949. I want to say. Let's see, where's it at? 1949. So the stuff that they talk about in this book that is current day stuff is now history for us. And then the stuff that they talk about that's history is quite old history for us. And there's a section in here on woodworking and wood turning. And it's kind of interesting because they're talking about specific wood turners in the New England area at the time that this book was written. And the different ones that they're talking about, the wives of these men seem to all be knitters, which I find really kind of funny in the fact that that's something that I do. Some of them may do a few other things too, making hooked rugs and cloth toys, preserving jellies, things like that. But when I see that they're, you know, this one here, his mother, 4 sisters, and a niece all knit sweaters and mittens. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of funny. Then I get to another one over here, and it says in here that his wife is an experienced knitter. And I think it's so funny. But what I find really interesting about the woodworkers themselves is when you get way back, because I mean, electricity has only been a thing for, well, it seems like a long time, but it's not really that long in the grand scheme of our world. And before there was electricity, there was still lathe work. So how did they do this lathe work? Well, kind of like in the sense with a sewing machine, your old sewing machines were a foot powered where you used your foot to make the sewing machine go. Same with our spinning wheels. You used your foot to make the spinning wheel go. They had lathes that you used your foot to make the lathe work. It would have been a much slower process than he's doing here because, the lathe can only move as fast as your foot can make it go. But they would actually use this foot powered with cords and stuff that would connect to different parts via like pulleys and stuff to make the things spin. And I've actually seen some reproductions. I watched this show. It's a British show called Time Team, and I'm kind of addicted to it. It's kind of fun to watch as they uncover these old civilizations, but sometimes they will try and reproduce something in the same manner it would have been originally done. And there's a couple times that they have actually reproduced the original lathes with this foot power and then worked on it. And it's really kind of neat to see them work this old way that, you us nowadays, we don't even think about things like that. And and so many things back then that were made, everything you think about at some point was being handmade that they were using. So, like, they would have handmade these bowls, not just because it was a pretty bowl to have sitting somewhere, but they would have used it to eat out of and cook out of and things like that. It was a necessity. And I mean, it's just like with my knitting and my crocheting and things like that and spinning the wool and how many things they used to have to create starting this way. And it's the same with the wood. There were so many things that they used wood and stone and whatnot for in the different eras. And there's actually not a lot that you can see of the original woodwork because so much of the wood, it decomposes. So over time, it disappears. The places that it seems like you find more of this old wood that has still survived, believe it or not, is in areas that are swampy and boggy and things like that, because for some reason, it almost preserves the wood when it's sitting in the water as opposed to decomposing. And when you get it in the drier soils, it decomposes more. And, sometimes they might unearth something and they have to cast it because they know as soon as they start to move that piece of wood or touch it, it's going to just turn to powder. And if they're lucky enough to even find wood to begin with. So the different areas that I've seen them actually find some pieces is usually somewhere like, you find the shipwrecks or something like that. But they know that these different things were made. They know how they were made. A lot of times it's the tools that they find that were used to make something because they've survived because they're made out of something different. Like with spinning, your drop spindles, they know they use the drop spindles because they would find the whorl, which is the round piece on the spindle, not the shaft, because the shaft was usually made of wood and they would all decompose, disappear, where the whorl a lot of times was made out of stone or when you got into your Iron Age and stuff, they might have actually made it out of some sort of metal. Now and then they might find one that actually survives with the shaft that's made from bone, which I think are really neat. And they'll have this whole spindle they've been able to find. But those types of things normally aren't found. The cloth that was made normally isn't found because it too decomposes. But they know it was being done and how it was being done because they find that whorl. So, it's just I don't know. I find it interesting when you start thinking about the history and why. I mean, now it's just a hobby. We do it because we enjoy doing it and we like the things we make from it. But at one point in time, it was done because that was how they had to do it. That was how they had to survive. They were either making it for themselves to use or maybe to trade for something else that somebody else made, you know. So here he's getting close to the end. He had already waxed it, but then found another rough spot inside, so he's working that down a little bit more to get to the end. But it's a beautiful bowl. It's coming out beautiful, and I've told him he needs to, me being me. I said you need to make some like this, and then cut a notch in them so you can make yarn bowls. So, for those of you out there that are a knitter or a crocheter or have a wife that is a knitter or crocheter, you'll understand where I'm coming from, that these would make beautiful yarn bowls. But for everybody else, they'd rather leave them as a bowl, maybe, a nut bowl, a trinket bowl, whatever. He started when he first started doing bowls, he's been doing them from branches. And he's cut a piece of the branch and left that outer bark on it and then carved in the center, and they're beautiful and they're perfect little trinket bowls and stuff like that. I actually showed a couple of them in my last video with little yarn pieces and stuff I had in them. So I have them set all over the place and I'm using them for different things, but there's the bowl. Here's the finished piece. I think it came out beautiful. Oh, and while I'm thinking about it, if you like this video, click like. And if you'd like to see more, click subscribe. I try and do a video about every 2 weeks here lately. So there's the three different pieces all pieced together. I think it's a beautiful bowl. And the one that he had done before this one, the night before, is right there. And that one he had actually done extra designs in it. So I think they came out beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.